questions to ask throughout a campaign with the confidence rising. I told JC, Nate and Rich that good times are coming, no need for deep diving. Fan Cam's reactions, watch along for the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South stay flying, keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Yo, we're back again. Consistency. This is episode 2, the review of Football Dreams, focusing on the Crystal Palace Academy. And this week was the under-16s, which myself and Nate, obviously, as we know, it's a very pivotal time. It's the decision whether or not you get that 2-year scholarship, and that could make the massive difference as to whether you make it as a pro within the club, the setup you're in, or whatever club you go to in the future and stuff. So, as always, big up Nate. How you doing, my bro?
Yeah, man, all good. Obviously, was looking forward to tonight's episode because the first episode really was an education because we had a very young, sensitive, not so much about 12 years of age, under 12s. That's when you're really starting to feel for the young boys because that's when the dream starts to slowly become real. Whereas this week's episode, it really does harbor, right, what's the difference between 16s and 18s? It's literally the finest of margins.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously we spoke last week about the environments of South London and what have you, but now you really got to see it's not so much about are you the best player in your position? It's literally about when it comes to the nitty gritty, they don't look for specific metrics. They know what they want. And if you're not to what they're looking for, something might save you or something might condemn you. It's very, the margin is so slim, it's barely even visible to the naked eye. But the important thing, Rich, is that, you know, it was a very intriguing episode. But enough about that. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. And you're right in saying that it was an intriguing episode because, once again, three players focused on, one goalkeeper, 2 midfielders,
A winger and a midfielder.
Caleb was a winger, and Billy was the goalkeeper. And we'll start with Billy because I feel the episode really honed in on him, as well. And
yeah,
you know, they broke it down saying that, like, listen, players train between 4 and 5 times a week, and they play on Saturdays, you know. And what was very interesting as well, I mean, they only really mentioned it for Billy, and not so much Toby and Caleb. So if you hear any background noise, I don't know what's they're doing in the kitchen, but it's all good. But he was studying for his GCSEs, you know, and it's kind of like the reality for these young people at that age that they really have to juggle 2 different elements at the same time, which could you imagine they're having that training, thinking about, oh my gosh, I need to like perform. Then they go to school, probably have to think about the education, but also thinking about maybe their last performance at training and such. It must be a really crazy time for these young people at that time. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think if you get to the 16s, you've kind of it's effectively ingrained in you. Because, like, most of these kids, as they said, they've been here since like 9 years of age, possibly younger. So they've had that lifestyle built into them because it's rostered. It's like a work roster for me or for you. They know what they're doing every single week. Granted, as a teacher, you know what you're doing. You've got your lesson plans to draw up and what have you. Take my job, for example. I get a roster every week of what days I'm working. And I know what time I'm working at. So I never have to go, am I in today? Am I not? Do I do this? Do I not? I understand that for us, look on the outside looking in, we're thinking, how the hell do they juggle school, football, family commitments, barely meeting up with friends? But Wilfred Zaha said it famously. Many is the time he got invites to go to parties and that, and he had to say no because he had football on his mind. And he knew so many good young footballers, they get caught up in, you know, chasing parties and girls and all this sort of thing, and they fall by the wayside. For young men like this at this crucial age in their development, it's literally, if you choose to go to one party, that could be it for you. because something happens that no football club can have a metric for. Say, for example, somebody shoves you into a wall and you hurt your arm as a goalkeeper, for example. The damage may not be bad, but they don't know why that happened because they're thinking, were you at a party when you've got training next week and we've got a local game against, say, Charlton or Millwall or whoever? They're thinking you were starting on the team sheet for this game. Now we have to think, who do we bring in to replace you? So it's little things like that some young men realized, you know what, the girls and parties and all this fame and fortune will come if I work hard now. And they're the ones that tend to make the crop to maybe not playing at Palace or another Premier League club, but they're the ones that make it at professional level, even if it's down in the EFL or the National League. But obviously to see that, it was interesting because, again, we don't know much about academy football because all we see is, be it members or be it fans, is like, for example, when we watch up the 21s or the 18s on Palace TV, well, we don't see what goes on behind that. You know, what do their parents go through? What do these young men go through?
100%. And you know, with Billy as well, you could sense that he's had so many obstacles to deal with. Unfortunately, he lost his dad to leukemia, and he's very, very aware, obviously, and he embraces the fact that he has a stammer as well. You know, and it was kind of like picked up on early with the coaches. They kept mentioning like he needs to work on his communication and stuff. And I think obviously when he has to think too much, that's where he will start to stammer. But what I liked what they said is that the coaches then had catchphrases for him. So they kept the information short and sweet so that he processes that quicker, which means that limits the amount of or the chances for him to stammer, you know, which was beautiful to hear. Really beautiful to hear. It was interesting as well, just talking about Billy. His height came up, because obviously the average height for a goalkeeper is 6'3". So he still needs a bit of work, they were saying. And they were very 50-50 about giving him a scholarship early on in the episode. And you can see as the episode was developing, it's like, right, he's not playing here. He's not getting many minutes there. I think he played against, I think it was Cambridge.
Yeah, he did.
He gathered. He caught one really well. And then the next one, I think he flapped out and stuff. So it was kind of like a nervous game. Then unfortunately against Mill, for him, he didn't play at all. So there was a lot he had to deal with. And this was before, and I'm not going to come to it a bit yet, but before a certain person then turned up. How do you think how do you feel he dealt with those adversities at the time, from what we saw of the review?
I mean, you have to look at people's mental states when they see potential threats to their place. For example, if, like, obviously in Billy's mind, when he's seen that he wasn't getting as many minutes, some players fall by the wayside and get a bit complacent and think, well, I'm not getting minutes here. Maybe I should look at other teams if they're in a profession. So if they're in the first team, but if you're at academy level, you're thinking, okay, my place is nowhere near secure. I'm under very big threat of getting released. What do I have to do to start telling them, do you know what? Maybe Billy is the goalkeeper we need at this moment in time. Having said that, though, you could clearly see there was an impact on him, that he wanted to make a note for himself and say, listen, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I think it was, So for him, it was imperative that he stepped up to the plate, because as he saw, somebody in his position came in, and that was a big threat because this kid had been at Arsenal and Chelsea. He'd been around a lot of the London clubs, which happens a lot in London. There's so many football clubs up and down the divisions in London. You're never far away. That's why London's such a big city. You know, you go down the road, you've got Sutton United, Wimbledon, Charlton, Millwall, ourselves. You've got Chelsea, Fulham, QPR, Brentford. And then you go across to like Barnet. And do you know what I mean? You've got an abundance of clubs all across the capital that kids from all over, like, for example, Nathaniel Klein came from Tottenham. Now, we wouldn't think that because he's a Stockwell boy, but he had to go to Tottenham before he came Palace. So it's things like that you get a taste of it. Sorry, how you doing, JC? You good?
Yeah, man, all good. Just thought I'd hop in here before I start recording for Transfer Weekly.
Oh yeah, listen, you're more than welcome. But yeah, to answer your question, Rich, yeah, I think I liked how he persevered with it. He didn't let his head drop or think, "Oh, my place is under threat. I'm getting kicked out." He said, "You know what? This kid's good, but I have to prove that I'm just as good, if not better." And you can see the chances he did get, albeit they weren't as much as he would like. He did everything he could, and I think they noticed that because they were like, "You know what? There's something there. Maybe not first team level, or maybe not 21s or 18s, but they know they can work with him in some capacity." So it was good to see that his hard work and his determination paid off. But obviously, you know, the other side of that coin is even the best young talents, like Toby, for example, who work extremely hard. Sometimes they don't make the cut. And that's the ruthlessness, that's the cutthroat end of the academy that none of us know as fans, you know, because we're all learning it now as we watch this documentary. And this is what is so fascinating. You're like, if this wasn't our football club, we wouldn't be as invested. But because it's Palace, we're all thinking, I didn't realize we were this cold. Well, obviously, that's why we've gotten players from our academy like that, because they've been the best of what we had, as opposed to the players that were looking like the best but didn't quite make it. So that would be my take on it.
Absolutely. And obviously, you touched on the fact that like Billy had to overcome another goalkeeper coming in Adam. JC, what's your thoughts on Adam as a goalkeeper, and how do you think Adam's performance in itself affected Billy? You're muted.
Well, I said I think in a weird way, it sort of reminded me a little bit of Julian Speroni, in the sense of he was good, but he wasn't Julian Speroni. But when Wayne Hennessy came in, who was a much taller, lankier guy, who seems to be sort of the exact same player profile Alex was when he came in, Speroni stepped up his levels. And he went from a good keeper with a few mistakes in him to a great keeper with not many mistakes in him. So I think that sort of the same thing happened. Like, competition is always good for a player's development. It's not good for their mentals because I think, oh God, I've got to fight for my place. But as one of the coaches said, it's fight or flight. And obviously, Billy hit that fight, and he smashed it. Tried harder, improved drastically in a short space of time. He got the contract. I don't know if Alex got the contract, but all that matters is that he done it, and he showed the coaches, look, this is my spot. You're benching me for no reason. I'm going to show you what I can do next year. And he done it.
No, absolutely. And obviously, it was good to hear at the end. He was so chuffed. He was so happy. And obviously the family were too, you know, and like I said, obviously to overcome the hurdles of his stammer, his losing his dad, someone else coming in trying to take his spot.
Oh yeah, he had the world against him,
literally, and he was able to overcome those and be able to get his 2-year scholarship. So guys, listen, for any young person out there aspiring, you know what? No, actually, let me scrap that. For anyone aspiring for anything, no matter what comes in your way, just keep striving, just keep pushing. You know, and you reap the rewards. You reap the rewards. Let's move on to the final two players because I loved this segment. I really, really enjoyed this segment. Toby versus Caleb. Now, obviously, Toby's been with us since he was 9. You can see the talents there, but boy, he can let his head drop like that. You know, his temperament. He couldn't deal with his emotions. He was angry, and as the episode went on, he was getting angrier and angrier and angrier. The coaches were getting frustrated. You know, big up, was good to see Todorov there. I didn't realize he was part of the setup. You know,
yeah.
He's just
funny you say that. Gary, the guy, he's the guy that taught me to do my level 1.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah, Gary Issett, the academy director.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny that an ex-Charlton striker isn't part of our academy. Like, what is this? What is this? But no, to be fair, it's quite clear that it's good having ex-pros that have played at the Prem level. They know what they're talking about. So to have that structure in place with someone like Gary is imperative. But I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry, Rich.
No, just saying, and like, obviously they focused on Toby's like temperament before the fact that Caleb came in, you know. So let's touch on Toby first, and then we'll go into Caleb. For me, I was worried from the jump. I thought, you know what? You can have all the skill in the world, all the talent in the world, but as soon as you show your frustration, and the reason why I was worried is because I could openly admit that, like, when I was playing, that was me. I can, like, when I'm frustrated, everyone knows, and then all of a sudden I'm no longer in the game. You know? So I kind of saw him and me, or me and him, sorry. Because, like, if it's not getting his way, it's stroppy. It's like always blaming everyone else, sort of thing, and getting upset. And especially when he didn't start, it's as if he didn't care for the team. You know, it looked as if he didn't care. Maybe he did, but he was just so annoyed that he wasn't playing. You know, and there was a game, I believe it was the Chelsea game, I think it was. I might be wrong. And like Todorov had to speak to him after the game, you know, and just be like, oh, you've got to do a bit. It's a better way of showing this. Like, go and ask questions. Ask what you need to improve on. Ask why I'm not starting and stuff. When they, like, how did you see Toby as a player?
Yeah, go ahead, Jesse. You
Go
go
on,
ahead.
go on.
Yeah, I'll say my piece and then I'll hop out because I don't want it to be too late. I think I agree with you in the sense that he was technically good because the coaches gave him his praises where he needed to be technically good on the ball. Even for his skinny stature, he's physically strong, and he said even though he's a midfielder, he's one of the best finishers in the team. But it's that mentality. I think in some cases it's the mentality that's more important than the actual skill itself. Because I think when they were cutting away to Zaha, I think they've repeated that quote that he said in the first 2 episodes. You find many, many, many talents who has skill better than Zaha, but they never had the work rate to make it. And I think that's sort of something that rings true when it comes to Toby, because at the end of it, he got his 2-year deal at, I can't remember where it was.
Aldershot.
Yeah, he got his 2-year deal, and that's great. But he could have jumped into the 18s and then progressed further. And then if he did get released in the 18s, he'd probably get a club of a slightly higher stature. And then if he went to the 23s and got released, he would have got another higher club at another stature. And then if he got through 23s, who knows? He could be in the first team in a couple of years. But I think it's the mindset. I think he thought he'd already made it. I think the praise that he got
since he was 9, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the praise that he got from the coaches must have. I don't know whether the coaches praised him too much or not, because with last week's episode, the coach handled that youngster really well. He'd stay humble, but I didn't see that with this episode. I felt, but then again, I do feel like he's 16. He's not 12, so he should already have that mentality installed in him. So I think that sort of stay humble thing, it'll be nice for it to be reiterated, but I think he's probably old enough that he should know that himself. He shouldn't need to be told to stay humble at that kind of age.
Yeah.
But lads, have a nice one.
Big up. Make sure you keep it locked. TW will be out tomorrow.
As well, there's both will be out tomorrow. There's too much content coming out the Eagle Eyed Football Kitchen, boy. We're cooking too much food up in here.
Yeah, we're working. We're working. I might even check this out tonight. You know?
We'll see. We'll
see how it goes. Now, I was going to ask you about, obviously, his temperament. Do you think that had an effect on the squad? Like, do you think it was always so evident that he was just like, Because, I mean, in that one game that they showed when he came on, it looked as if he was just walking around and moping. and stuff.
I
Do you
mean,
think that really kind of continual effect?
do you know what? Again, we've got to remember these kids are like 15 years old because they're under 16. So they're old enough, as JC said, to kind of know, listen, when you're in a game, you have to be switched on in the game.
Yeah.
When it doesn't go your way, it's natural. When you played football, when I played football as a kid, when it doesn't go your way, you just want to go, do you know what? I can't be bothered. But the difference, and I'm not remotely trying to say he was like that, but it felt to me as if because he's been at the club since under nines, so he's been there quite a while. I feel like, particularly in England, there's so much pressure on young players to be the next this, the next that. And they bring it on themselves. There's not even that the parents below. So, yeah, some parents would be guilty of saying, I want you to be as good as Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, whoever. But some, like we heard Kyron say, you know, I've got the ability of this player and the ability of that player and all of this. And look, you rate his confidence, but you're thinking, little man, it's all well and good saying you've got this and that. But when it comes to game time, you have to back that up with what you do on the pitch. Whereas with Toby, I rate that he's passionate and he doesn't agree that things are going against him, but it's how you address it. Like Wilfred Zaha is a prime example. He strops so much on the pitch. We're all thinking, Zaha, come on, bro. You're nearly 30 for crying out loud. When he was 19 and he was young and immature, we were like, he's young, he'll grow out of it. And to be fair to him, you can see he is starting, like, obviously we can't go into too much in the football side, but last Monday night, he was getting fouled. He just tried to get on with it. Even though he knew he'd been fouled, he just said, listen, game. But young men in particular, you know, we know how it feels. You don't necessarily want to think that everything's going against you, but when it is, you don't know how to process it.
Yeah.
Because footballing academies always tell you, you're great, you're amazing, you're going to be the next this, the next that. They fill these young boys' heads with big dreams and big aspirations. They forget what goes on the pitch, be it good, be it bad, be it world-class performance, be it you took a massive knock to a guy that's 2 stone heavier than you. It's how you adapt to that situation. It's how you go, right, okay, this guy's got me on job. He's got me on lockdown. How do I get around him? How do I get the ball to a teammate? How do I get a killer pass into a teammate where they can go, do you know what, Toby? Cracking assist. If Toby hits a diagonal and sets his teammate up for a goal, they're thinking, whoa. What coaches want to see, and we all know this because that's what they want to see in the first team, is how do you adapt to a situation that goes against you? It's easy to throw your arms up in the air and go, do you know what? I can't be bothered. I'm going home. Rather than that, you go, do you know what? Oh, I felt that a bit, but let's get back into it. Let's go for it again. His attitude's right. It's the way he's putting that attitude out there that's wrong. He's a fighter, but he's fighting the wrong fight, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rather than fight to get himself into those talking points of, whoa, hang on a minute, Toby's improving in his adaptation. They're looking at it and going, he's having another strop again. They don't want to see that. That's why he didn't get the contract. Because what they want to see is, can he handle when things go wrong? If you body check me, I can easily go, mate, and I just give up, where I can go, do you know what? This rich guy, he's on me. I need to make sure I can get past him and return the favor. Because if I'm returning the favor, they can see, do you know what? These two have got something about them. But if I just give up straight away because you put me on the floor, they're like, yo, man, get this guy out of here. He's a bum. You know, so it's harsh and it's brutal, but that's the nature of the game now. You know, it has to be ruthless.
100%. And once again, massive credit to Palace and all what they do, like, behind the scenes, because obviously after they made that decision, the first thing they told him was, like, listen, until you get some trials, keep coming in. We're going to work on some things with you and stuff. And obviously that aftercare program that we've embedded, that went straight into effect. You know, and obviously then ended up getting his 2-year scholarship with Aldershot, which so wish you all the best there. Last player, Caleb. Now I don't think this will be as long, because I tell you what, he came in and I was like, he literally fits the mold of the wingers that we have at the club. He's out there beating players, whipping balls into the box, assist. I think he cut in, he whipped one in the top corner with right foot. I was like, we are just finding gems. Absolute gems. And he's been round the block as well, to be fair to him. So for him to effectively finally find his feet and get the two-year scholarship with us is obviously good signs for him. So yeah, I like the looks of him.
Absolutely. But, you know, it's crazy. People don't realize how street football, particularly in South London, it shaped Jadon Sancho, Mikel Antonio, Wilfred Zaha, Callum Hudson-Odoi. I could rattle off a list of names of young men that have come from south of the river. Now, obviously, we pride ourselves on being the only Premier League club south of the river because we've been that way for 10 years. Charlton were that before us. Much as it kills me to admit it, but facts are facts. I can't deny what came before we got back up here. But there's never been a definitive stance from us to go, right, we've got a catchment area of roughly, give or take, 900,000 to 1 million people. Not all of them are going to be Palace fans. But with every young boy between the age of 6 to 18, if there's a Premier League club in South London, they're the club you want to gravitate towards. Because you can't really risk playing kids in the Championship unless they're really good.
Yeah.
We struck gold with Zaha and Johnny Williams and Sean Scannell. But think about it. Since that we were last in the Championship, we haven't really blooded many youngsters into the first team. Aaron Wan-Bissaka before Tyrick Mitchell was the last one where you thought, okay, there's a player there. We saw the brief rise of the Soleil Kaikais and Levi Lumekas, Hiram Boatengs, and you can see the list of names I'm listing off here. But very quickly they came through, and then they were Brandon Pierrick, a prime example. He got one pass, he got a pre-assist to an assist, and the fan base lost their mind.
Yeah,
you know. And I was guilty of that because I was so happy to see an academy player break through. But when I really looked at it, I went, yeah, you got a pre-assist, Nate. It's not something to, get gassed over. But again, you know, we're looking at the category of players that we're signing for the first team. So Elise, Abiwe, Eze, these are all street footballers. Zaha, to a degree, is a street footballer. Yeah. So to now target that and say, do you know what, this can be our stamping ground where, okay, we're not going to have world-class players coming through every year, such as La Masia. We don't want that. If you said to me, Mitchell and Adaramola will be our starting left-backs for the next 5 to 10 years, I'd be all for that because they're academy players. Yeah? These aren't players that we've signed from, with all due respect to the League of Ireland, say Shamrock Rovers or St. Pat's or Bohemians or Longford Town, because Teo came from Dublin. Yeah. If they're coming through the ranks and we've got Adaramola, Mitchell, Raksaki, Wells Morrison, David Ozo, Omalabu, just these 6 names I've rattled off. Imagine we can say 6 of our 25-man squad came from the youth system.
It's incredible.
One of our best ever players, Wilfred Zaha, youth system.
Yeah.
Ian Wright, okay, he wasn't from our youth system, but we scouted him and nobody else would touch him before he came to us. So the fact that we've got this great identity of, if you're an underdog, Mark Bright couldn't get a look in before he came to Palace.
Yeah.
And then he went on to play for Sheffield Wednesday and a couple of other teams. And the same with Ian Wright. Brighton rejected him because they said that this other guy was great and this other guy nobody ever heard of again. Do you know what I mean? So it's the smallest of margins between, you might think, because Ian Wright was always on the small side, you're thinking, nah, he's not going to make it as a striker. But as he proved, when people wrote him off, much to our chagrin, what did he do? He said, oh, I'm not going to make it, am I? Okay, go to Crystal Palace. Oh, I'm not good enough to play for a top club? Move to Arsenal. Oh, I can't play for England? Plays for England, becomes one of England's best strikers. Not necessarily in the bracket of the Bobby Charltons or Alan Shearers, but he wore that England shirt. Not many people can say they've done that, even if you're, for example, like a gunslinger in the Championship. Very few players in the Champ make it to the England team. So to see the confidence in Caleb, you're like, yeah, that's what you want to see, because that's what the whole point of building the new academy was. You know, the club wants to be sustainable in the sense that if we can sign Wan-Bissaka's, Zaha's, Mitchell's, a Daramolas and blood them into the first team. We get proud of that. We're like, I don't care if we never sign a world-class player or have umpteen billion in the bank. If our academy is churning out top-quality first-team players, we can proudly say, you know what, mate? Keep your £600 million players. Keep them. Keep them. What we've done is we've built something that's sustainable, because the money market is always volatile. So, but obviously, you know, we had porta cabins on that site not too long ago, and that was a goal. That was a Beckenham goals. Now it's one of the best facilities in London.
It's unbelievable.
You know? So, but look, you know, like you said, Rich, it's refreshing to see these young men in a light that we wouldn't normally see them. Because bear in mind, the 16s and lower age groups, they're rightly not broadcaster fans because they're just young kids. You don't want, like, if the under 8s lose 5-2 to Millwall, they're under 8s for crying out loud. You know, it's all about them enjoying football at that age. If it's the 16s losing to Millwall, you're like, that's a bit of an ego check, because as well as you think you're good, if you're losing in local derbies at 16s level, you don't want to be facing that game at senior level, because at senior level, it means way more, because the fans take the senior game way more seriously, you know. But yeah, look, you know, another episode where we got to think, okay, so now we see how ruthless we are with our academy players. We're not remotely trying to wrap them in cotton wool and say, oh, it's okay, you know, you can stay with us a year. Like, listen, there's nothing we can do for you here. But we have an aftercare program now where we're like, you know what? We can't do nothing, but we'll make sure you have a path to go to. Which, look, lo and behold, I guarantee you, if Toby ever makes it to the Prem and he scores a worldie against us at the home there, it's like, I knew that was going to happen. I didn't want to say it, but you know, look, that's the beauty of football, is that players, you know, Niall Ranger, who was famous for what he did at Newcastle, he was in our youth system before he went to Southampton. I didn't even know that until I watched his podcast with the True Geordie. So it's little things like that we're not paying attention to, because even Cecil was in our academy. Do you know what I mean? Big up Cecil from AFTV. So do you know what I'm saying? And I think because we're getting an in-depth fly-on-the-wall look at our academy, we're now looking at our club in a different light, because we're passionate Palace fans. We love the club, but we don't see how ruthless the club is as a business, because that's what the academy is all about. It's making money, because money was invested to make it a facility that we can go as fans. Listen, forget about your £500 million squad. We just spent £30 million on an academy that nobody can say is not a top facility. And obviously, that came from the generation from an academy product who was sold for best part of 45 to 50 mil, which, let's be fair, at the time, it was money you had to snatch at, because money like that doesn't come around very often for a club like Palace. So to see it reinvested in this fashion, Rich, how can you not be proud to be Palace seeing it? Because for years and years and years, we were looking at other clubs like Southampton benefiting massively from having come through, like Luke Shaw, Bale, Oxlade-Chamberlain. 3 of those are England internationals, by the way. Obviously, Bale's a Wales international, but you see what I'm saying? It's those small differences that clubs make, and you're like, wow, imagine we could get bare minimum 2 players to play for England from our academy. We had that, Zaha and Mitchell. Granted, Zaha's since gone to Cote d'Ivoire, but point is, he played in an England shirt whilst at Crystal Palace. So I'm just delighted that this documentary is not too protective of these young boys. You do get to see the harsh reality of academy football, but you're also seeing the elation when they make it and the devastation when they don't. So you get the healthy balance of the good and the not good, because it makes you realize, you know what, if we were a bit more driven at their age, and I'm not trying to put either of us down here, but imagine we got released and we're Palace fans, we'd be heartbroken. But if you get that 2-year scholarship, you're like, right, one step closer to the first team, but now the real work has to kick in. At 18s level and at 23s level, it's another level of ruthlessness. So that's what, you know, hopefully the next episode we'll touch on another younger group, so you get a healthy mix of older, younger. You want to see the different aspects of it. But as you say, another cracking episode. I look forward to Thursday nights now. What is going on? I don't like having things to look forward to. It makes me worried. It's like, oh no, I've got to look forward to something now. Oh man, I just want a quiet night in, just put my head under the covers and just don't do anything. But nah, again, it's one of those where you're thinking, you know what, this is great that we've got an in-depth look at things, but we're seeing the good side, the bad side, and we're seeing why that decision fell on one side of the coin or the other side. It's not a case of, you know what, player A is too good to be released. They're thinking, yeah, he's good, but his attitude's all wrong. If the attitude's wrong, no amount of ability can save you when your attitude stinks. Player B, his ability is not quite where we want it to, but his attitude is he's never given up. That's what you want to see in a player, because you can train, you can nurture that ability into shape. But if a player believes, oh, I'm the next Mbappe, you sure about that? And go score 10 goals in one game then. Oh, I was only joking. When you go,
this is it.
Deliver.
And obviously, all the best to Caleb, Billy, Toby. Fantastic insight into there.
Aiden and obviously the other three boys last week. Obviously
last week, yeah. I
felt so bad for Bowler. I was like, I understand why, but part of me really wanted him to get in with his boys because.
So Bowler, Caden, and Cairo, I believe it was. Yeah. It's such an amazing insight into the work that's done in the academy, the great job that we did in the academy, the cutthroat nature, well, as you said, also the elation. So yeah, this is the episode 2 review. Thursday needs to hurry up and come round and get episode 3. There's 6 episodes, I believe.
Yeah, so we're almost halfway over. But can I just say, it was so lovely to see what the parents were making of this, because obviously the young boys have big aspirations, big dreams, and obviously they all want to make it. But the sacrifices that the parents make, and obviously we touched on that last week with one of the mums having to pay serious amounts of money for football boots. I mean, what irks me about that, right, is take out the fact that we both support Palace. I would much prefer for Premier League clubs to subsidise that sort of thing. Because let's be real, if you're giving players boots, yes, okay, you might say, oh, but what if they don't make it? Fine. But at the same time, it's of no detriment cost to the club. The club gets exponential amounts of money every year from the Premier League, from broadcast money alone, as well as investment from the chairman, the investors, the directors, and all of that. Now, obviously, other clubs have different things to do and things. But looking at that, I was thinking, this mum has to shell out the best part of almost £200 on football boots just to give her son a fighting chance of playing. It's heartbreaking because you're thinking the amount of money that is required now just to make a decent living. And there's single parents out there struggling, Rich. I mean, obviously, not everybody has that problem, but like my dad raised me on his own. I would never have wanted him to do that because it's just so much money. Yeah, granted, if you can afford it, it's fine. But that's a lot of money to me. Even now, I was crying that I spent €160 on a flight for Saturday. Do you know what I mean? So I could never take that for granted. But obviously, to see the reality of it and see what it means to people, you're like, okay, so it's a lot more harder, to look at this and not be impartial, because you're seeing the realities of what the parents go through just to help their sons potentially make it, not even guaranteed to make it. We saw that Bowler was a little bit heartbroken last week, obviously, as was Toby this week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as we say, that was the ruthless nature of the whole thing, is that it can't necessarily all work out for everyone. Someone has to be on the wrong end of the list, and sadly those boys were. But that doesn't mean they can't go on to another club and then come back to haunt us 10 years later when they're scoring worldies at the Homesdale. It's like, why did we let this guy go? But you know what I mean. It's
the nature of football.
As much as it would hurt to be released, the more you persevered, you said, you know what, my time at Palace taught me a lot, but I want to show them I wasn't the one to release.
Yeah.
The determination to succeed should outweigh your disappointment of being released. But not every young man's going to have that mentality, is what I would say. But look, I don't want to go for too much longer because we we've both got to do stuff tomorrow. So we'll wrap it up there. Episode 3 next week.
Can't wait. So guys, as always, smash the like button, share the stream, subscribe if you're new. Big up to Ree, by the way, for clipping that.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the Villa match preview earlier, you got to check it out.
Go watch it. Go watch it.
It's
ASAP.
worth a watch. Worth a
I will
watch.
actually put it on the end card for this one. Make sure you watch it. It's funny. Anyway, Nate, big up as always, my bro.
Big up, people.
Yeah.
We're out.
Alice.
Out the palace.